Welcome back to another training session of the TAE certification series. Today we will start chapter number 6, transitioning manual testing to an automated environment. This chapter is all about addressing the transition from manual testing to an automated testing environment. So let's go through these sections. 6.1, criteria for automation. Then we have 6.2, identify steps needed to implement automation within regression testing. 6.3, factors to consider when implementing automation within new feature testing. And 6.4, factors to consider when implementing automation of confirmation testing. And today we will start with section 6.1, criteria for automation. So let's get ready to explore how we can make this important shift. Let's start with our discussion on criteria for automation. Traditionally, organizations rely on manual test cases to ensure that their software works as intended. But as the technology evolves, so do our testing methods. When we decide to take the leap into an automated testing environment, the first step is to evaluate our existing manual test. Based on that, we will determine our automation approach. We have got to take a good hard look at where we stand. Are our manual tests still doing the job, or do they need an upgrade? And here is the fun part. The existing structure of a manual test may or may not be ready for automation. If yes, then it's all good as you can proceed with test automation. If it's not, we need to do a complete rewrite of the test to make it automation friendly. It's like giving your favorite old book a fresh cover. Alternatively, instead of creating automated tests completely from scratch, you can take certain parts or elements from your existing manual test, such as the input values you use, the expected results you are looking for, and the steps you take to navigate through the test. These components can be extracted from your manual test and used again in your automated testing process. It's a way to save time and effort in the automation process by recycling elements of your manual test and making the transition to automated testing more efficient. A manual test strategy that takes into account automation will allow for tests whose structure facilitates migration to automation. In practical terms, it means you create your manual test cases in such a way that the structure, components, and elements are organized and documented in a manner that can be readily adapted for automation. It's all about setting up your manual testing process in a way that predicts and it eases the transition to automated testing when you are ready to make that shift. Test automation considerations. The first one is not all tests can or should be automated. You cannot automate every test, and it's not always the best choice. There are situations where manual testing is more appropriate. The next point is sometimes the first iteration of a test may be manual. In some cases, when you start testing something new, you might have to do it manually at first. Automation can come later once you understand the process better. Therefore, there are two aspects of transitioning to consider. The first one is the initial conversion of existing manual test to automation. So you need to convert existing manual test into automated ones. And the second one is the subsequent transition of new manual test to automation. So you should plan for transitioning new tests to automation as you develop them. Then the next point is certain test types can only be executed effectively in an automated way. For example, reliability test, stress test, or performance test. When we talk about reliability test, we mean the kind of test that check how stable and dependable a system or application is. In other words, you can rely on it to work consistently without unexpected failures. Coming on to stress test, they are all about pushing a system to its limits to see how it performs under extreme conditions. And performance test focus on how well a system performs under normal conditions. You want to know if it's fast, responsive, and efficient. The reason these type of tests are typically better suited for automation is that they often require repetitive and sometimes complex actions. Automation tools can perform these tasks much faster and with a higher degree of accuracy than a human could. In addition, automation can run these tests over and over again, which is often needed to identify trends, bottlenecks, or issues that might not surface in one-time manual test. The role of automation in interface testing. With test automation, it is possible to test applications and systems without a user interface. This is important because not all software components have a visible interface, but they still need to be rigorously tested. The second point is, in this case, testing can be done on the integration level via interfaces in the software. So instead of interacting with the graphical user interface, we focus on the integration level through software interfaces. These interfaces serve as the bridge between different parts of the software, and automation helps us thoroughly test this connectivity. While these kind of test cases could also be executed manually, using manually entered commands to trigger the interfaces, this may not be practical. Okay, and this is mainly because it can be really complicated and there are a lot of interactions that need testing. Now, an example is given over here. For example, with automation, it may be possible to insert messages in a message queue system. In this way, testing can start earlier and can identify defects earlier when manual testing is not yet possible. Okay, so in this example, message queue systems are mentioned, which are critical for information flow in many applications. So automation's real power lies in its ability to start much earlier in the development process. By identifying defects at an early stage, it saves time and resources, especially in cases where manual testing is not yet possible or impractical due to complexity. We will continue this in our next session and explore the process of evaluating whether to opt for automated or manual testing before starting an automated testing project. Till then, take care.